the next section that I want you to do is the second part of that question as it was in the question paper. There was the graph. Right, there is the second part of that question as it appeared in the question paper of November 2010. In November 2009, Statistics South Africa announced that the annual inflation rate was 5.8%. Now the first question says, determine the price of the bicycle in November 2008 if it cost R1,586.95 in November 2009. And guess what most children do? They see the price, they see the percentage, and immediately they go calculate 5.8% of the amount. Be careful. Look what the question gives. It says, determine the price of the bicycle in November 2008. The current year is 2009. So what is happening in this question? We are going back. So the price of R1,586.95 already has the inflation in the price. Remember that first picture in the beginning, that balloon that was so inflated? This price is the inflated price. What do they ask? How much was it before the inflation? Now I wonder how many of you can tell me where in our maths do we use the same principle? Can I tell you? When we work with VAT inclusive and VAT exclusive. Remember, when we speak of VAT inclusive, it means the VAT is already in the price. And often they give you questions to say, what was the amount without VAT? Or they would ask you, how much was the VAT? Now this question works exactly on the same principle. This price of R1,586.95 is the big fat inflated price. So how are we going to do this? Let me show you. Right. Let's start with our big inflated price. I'm actually going to write it big so that you can remember that this price is already the inflated price. What was added to it? In this price, they have already added the 5.8%. And now I want to know, because remember, this is 2009. And I want to know what was it worth the previous year. And that is the catching point. So you can think this is a typical question, paper 2 question. But it's very easy. It works the same as the VAT. Now, I'm just going to explain it to you and then I'm going to show you the shorter way. What actually happened is they said 5.8% of an amount, I'm just using a placeholder, gave you the inflation. Right, that was the amount of the inflation. Then they took that inflation and they added it to that same amount to get R1,586.95. That is what they actually did. And now what are they asking us? Now they are asking us, but what was that original amount? Now the easiest way to do it is to say that it is R1,586.95 and we're actually dividing by the percentage. But now it is difficult to divide by the percentage. So what do? We multiply with its inverse. So then it becomes multiply by 100 over 105.8. Where did the 105,8 come from? Remember, it was the original 100% of the price plus the inflation, which was 5,8%. So that's where I got my 105,8%. So instead, let me just show it to you. Instead of saying 1,586,95 dividing by the 105,8%, remember 105,8% is a fraction. It's actually 105,8 over 100. But when you divide with a fraction, you multiply with its inverse. We learned that in the lower grades. And that's why I take the value and I multiply it by 100 over 105,8. Just to remind you, it works the same with the VAT. I'm just going to write it here so you can also remember it. If it's VAT inclusive, then you will also take the amount that is inclusive and multiply it by 100, dividing it by 114 to find what the original value was. It's just something for you to remember. But the principle is the same, because this big amount was already inflated with the inflation. And when I work with VAT inclusive, the amount is already with the VAT. It is inside. And that's how I find the answer. And if I calculate that, sorry, let me just put that aside. It will give you 1,499 Rand 95. So that bicycle that was in the second year, in 2009, that bicycle was 1,586 Rand 95. But the question asked in the previous year. So remember, we have to get rid of that inflation. And that's why we multiply with 100 over 105,8. And that gives us, what was it worth the previous year? Right. And the similar principle is applied when we speak of VAT and VAT inclusive. Right. I see that our time is running very short, and there's so 5 minutes left, and there's so much I still want to share with you. I'm going to give you two more questions, because as I say, the time is now unfortunately very short.